it was really great. It was really phenomenal.
I have to hear
It's
about
you get to see all these animals. They're a few feet from where you are. It's it's crazy,
Yeah,
but it was fabulous.
it's very interesting. Yeah, yeah. Once in a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Ernie, you still have to go.
It's we're going August 19th, I think. Rabbi Slivkin and Torah Moshe.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, you're doing it next year? This year?
This year.
Oh, you'll enjoy
wow.
it.
That's
Yeah.
what we just got word a few days ago.
You know what's crazy? I thought, especially in South Africa, a lot of the people that are there are Jews. It's crazy, even though the country as a whole, especially Cape Town, not so much because Cape Town is a complete different other environment. But the rest of the country has become horribly anti-Semitic.
Yeah, terrible.
Terrible.
Well, they're communists. They're like the ANC. They told the line.
And you know what? The rest of the country is really very poorly run. Cape Town is a beautiful town. It's a beautiful city. I can see for the Jews there why Mamish is such a struggle. Shabbos, the shul there was beautiful. We were at the Garden Shul for the Uprof, and it was gorgeous. I think it's incredible. The other thing that, and then with this I'll shut up. The other thing that was amazing, I went to have a museum of the history of the people there, and the Jews have been a part of South Africa and Cape Town particularly for the last 250 years. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Right.
So,
but they're no longer appreciated.
No.
Yeah.
It's also all the
wrong color,
petty jealousies, all the things. So anyway, let's learn.
Okay. We're on 60. Samech Amad Aleph. Shalach biat pikeach. If a person gave a flame to an intelligent person, so there's no shliach lidvar aveira. The pikeach has to know better, and he's chayiv. Amar Yitzchak man detani liba lo mishtabish uman detani niba lo mishtabish. We said that if somebody comes around and blows on the fire, then they're participating in the damage. And they use the word liba and use the word niba. And neither are confused. Mandatari liba lo mishtamish t'chsiv b'labas eish, because when it talks about the burning bush, it uses the word labas. Umandatami niba lo mishtamish t'chsiv borei nivs v'sayim. So air passes beyond the lips to fan the flames. So if lips haruach kulan pturim, if the flames were fanned by the prevailing wind, then everyone's potter. Tarabanan. Libahu v'libs haruach, if he did it in combination with the wind. Im yesh b'libuav k'dei l'voso chayiv. If his air was enough to cause the fire to spread, then he's going to be chayiv. Im lav potter. Now, why should it be potter? Levi kazoyre v'ruach mesayoso. If you take grain on Shabbos and you throw it in the wind, and the wind, and you're throwing it up, causes the chaff to blow away, so that's an amloch on Shabbos. So why over there, even though the ruach helps you, you're still chayiv? Amar Rabbi Yochanan Maiskinon. He was blowing from one direction, the prevailing wind was blowing the other direction, and that other direction is where the fire went. That's why he's potter. Rava Amar Kagon Shaliba Baruch Mitsuya. He blew along with a wind that was not very significant. The lips are ruach Baruch Shein Mitsuya. And then the wind kicked up and spread it, so that's why he's potter. Reb Zera Amar Kagon did Samrat Smuri. He only blew a little bit on the fire, and it's not considered enough of a libui. Rav Ashi Amar Ki Amrinan Zoyer Baruch Masayaso by Shabbos. Hani Milin Shabbos. Shemlechet Mach Shabbos Asur Torah. It's not whether it's a big wind, it's a small wind. It's whether or not a malacha was done. Here, he's just goyrei. He's just one of the causes. And grama ba'alma, grama b'nezikin posim. Hashalechas be'era. You lit a fire v'achla eitzim or avanim or afar, and it burnt wood or stone or dirt. Chayiv. Shenemar ki tetzei eish umatzah kotzim v'nachal gadish o hakama o asadeh shalem yishalem amavir sabeira. Omer Rav Lamali because the Rachmana kotzim, thorns, gadish, which is like an upright stalk, kama, which is sheaves, v'sadeh. Why do you need all of this? Why aren't they extra? Where says tzrichi, I need it because Rachmana kotzim. If the Torah would have only written thorns, havamina kotzim l'chayv Rachman. The Torah made you responsible if thorns got damaged. Mishum d'shchiach eish kavayu, because fire tends to burn up thorns. Ushchiach d'pasha, and you can be negligent for that. Aval gadish, to burn a standing stalk. Shalosh shchiach eish kavayu. Normally, there's not fire there. V'lo shchiach d'pasha. And usually people are not negligent. Eimalo, maybe you wouldn't be chayiv. Because Rachmana Gadish, having made a Gadish chayiv Rachmana. Yishum dehav shlid merubahu. A stalk of wheat is a big loss. Aval koitzim shefsid mu'it. But burning up thorns, it's a very minimal loss. Eima shalo. So I needed both. Then why did the Torah have to say kama, lamali? Ma kama begolui, it's upright and can be visible. Av kol begolui, you're only chayiv for things that you burn that you can see. Things that are buried in the ground, you're not chayiv for. Ul Rav Yudah shemachayiv on this ketomun be'esh. Rav Yudah said you are chayiv, even for buried loss. Kama lamali, what does kama teach you? The rabbis kol bali koma. Not just grain, but anything that stands, even trees, even living things. How do the Rabbanan learn that? Nafkaluhu o hakama, the extra o. V'Rav o maboyle lechalik. You might have thought that you're only chayiv if you burn all these things together. How do I know that you're chayiv for each one separately? O is lechalik. Rabbanan lechalik minaluhu. How do they know to lechalik? Nafkaluhu mi o asadeh. Rav Yehuda, I did it because Rachmana o hakama, because Rachmana o asadeh. It's just written stylistically, but not to learn a halacha from. Sadeh lamali. Why write the field itself? Lasui lichka niro v'sichsach havana. If you have a plowed field, and the fire singed the edges of the field, you also chayiv. Licht of Rachmana Sada v'lo bayana. So write a field and not mention all the details. Tzricha, you need to say Sada. The cause of Rachmana Sada v'mina masha b'Sada in midiachrinilo. Maybe only things that have to do with a field, but other items burnt, maybe you wouldn't be responsible. Kamashallah that you are. Rav Shmuel bar Nachman and Rav Yonis. Ein puranos bala oilam elav zman shashurim ba'oilam. Punishment comes in the world when there's rishoim in the world. But ein maschelas elam at tzadikim tchila. The tzadikim get the punishment first. Shenemar ki teitze eish umatzah kotzim emesai eish yotza When does a fire go? Bisman shekoitz mitzvila, when there's thorns, which refers to the Rishonim. But Eina maschalas elemenat tzadikim tchila. Shenemar v'nochal gadish. The first thing that's consumed is the stalks, which is like the tzadikim. Ochal gadish lo nemar ela v'noichal gadish. Shenoichal gadish kvar. It means before all the thorns are burnt up, the gadish is already burnt up, which is the main grain in the field. Tani Rav Yosef. My dichsiv, the people in Mitzrayim were told, "V'atem lo seitzu ish mi Pesach beisod boker." They were told to stay indoors. Kivan shenit rishus lamashlis and a mafkin bein tzadikim l'rishonim. Once the Malach HaMaves is given permission to reign, then he doesn't differentiate between tzaddik and rishon, so the tzaddikim had to stay in the house. V'la'od el shemaskel met tzaddikim tchila. It really starts with the tzaddikim. Shenemar v'ichrati mimech tzaddik v'rasha in Yechezkel, and it starts off with the tzaddik. Bachi Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef cried, "Kulai nami." La'ayin doimin. Who are the tzaddikim compared to? It's a good thing that tzaddikim are killed first, because that way they don't see the terrible suffering afterwards. The tzaddik is gathered up, so he shouldn't see all the evil that's going to befall the people. A person should travel to another city while the sun is still shining. If there's a plague in a city, you should stay in the house. Stay in your house. Close the door behind you. There'll be fear in the rooms. Now, why do we need these extra psukim? Maybe only at night, when the Malach HaMaves is out and about. But maybe in the daytime it's safe to leave your house. Toshma, lechami baba chadarecho skort lasech. Because there's no fear on the inside. So it makes sense to hide in the house. But if there's fear on the inside, maybe if he sits with the society outside, it's better. Toshma, no. Even though there's fear on the inside, it's worse. Better to stay in the house. When there was plague, he would seal up the windows of his house. Death came in through the windows. Rav Be'ir. Now, this is the opposite from plague. If there's famine, pazer raglacha, leave the place, go to a different place. Shneamar, vayi Rav ba'aretz, vayired Avram Mitzrayim et lagur sham. When there was a famine in the land of Canaan, Avram went to Mitzrayim. Im amarnu navo ha'ir, va'arav be'ir u'matnu sham. Why do we need this extra pasuk? Maybe you have to leave the place if there's a famine, when there's suffix nefashos, when there's no suffix nefashos in another place. But maybe if there's safek nefashos in another place, maybe you shouldn't leave. Lo, so Torshma, l'chu v'nafla machne aram, even if they still would rather run away from the city where there was a famine and go to the camp of the Arameans, even though there was a sakon nefashos there. Still better to escape famine. Torah Rabbana, Dever Be'ir, if there's a plague in the city, Ayalech Adam B'em Sader, don't walk in the middle of the road. The Malach HaMoves, when there's a plague, is given a reshus to reign in the city. He walks in the middle of the road. Given the Avalushus Mazgiladeh, he's given full use of the roads. Shalom Be'ir, if there's peace in the city, then Ayalech B'tzidei Drochim, don't walk on the sides of the road. Given to Leslie Reshusa, the Malach HaMoves doesn't have reshus to operate Machvi Chavuyu Mazgi. He hangs out in the shadows. Torah Rabbana. Dever Be'ir Ayikaris Adam Yochel Beis HaKnesses. If there's a plague in the city, he shouldn't go to the shul by himself. Shemalach HaMoves Mafkid Sham Kelev. The Malach HaMoves leaves his tools there. So it's a dangerous place. As long as children are not learning there. There's no minyan there. But if there's children learning or a minyan, then there's not a makom sakana. Torah Rabbana. Klavim boichim. If you hear dogs crying for no reason, they feel shemalach hamavis bala'ir. They know the malach hamavis is in the city. Klavim mesachakim. The dogs are happy. Elionavi bala'ir. Hanimila de lesbu nekeva. As long as there's not a woman there. If women are there, the dogs are happy too. Yosef, Ravami, Ravasi, Kamed, Rav Yitzchak Nafcha. Ravami, Ravasi were sitting with Rav Yitzchak Nafcha. Maramar Lemamar Shmaitza. One said the other to say a word of halacha. Umar Amar Le Lemamar Agadita. Say a dvar Agadita. Pasuk Lemamar Agadita v'lo Shavik Mar. Pasuk Lemamar Shmaitza v'lo Shavik Mar. Each one started to start, but the other Chacham didn't let them. This is an example of a man with two wives. One's a young wife, one's an old wife. The young wife is pulling out the white hairs from his head to make him look younger. The old wife is pulling out the black hairs to make him look older. Nimtza kerech mikam mikam. He's bald from both of them. Armor lahen. Iachi. So if nobody's going to start teaching, I'll say a word that's good for halacha and good for agarita. Kiteitzei eish umatzah kotzim. Fire went out and found the thorns. Teitze me'atzma. This is talking about a fire that sort of was started on its own. Shalom yishalem amavir sabeira. That seems to imply a person started the fire. Amra kodesh baruch hu. Alayla shalem sabeira shivarti. Even though the Beis Hamikdash was burnt because of the sins, I burnt it. Anit sitiesh b'tzion shenemar. Vayatzes eish b'tzion v'atochal yisod eser. It ate the foundations. But vani osi livnosa be'eish. I will rebuild it with fire. Shneimar, vani eyela num Hashem chomat eish saviv ulekvod eyeh besocha. Shmaitza, what halacha can you learn from this pasuk? Pasuk hakosuv b'leniske mamono. It talked about his monetary asset going out and starting a fire, like an animal. The sign beniske gufo, but Mavir Sabeira is Orma Mazik. Isho Mishum Chetzio. That when a human being starts a fire, it's like him launching a bow and arrow, which is his strength. And it's not his mammon that's causing damage. Vayetaveh David vayomer mi yishakeni mayim mibor beit lechem. David was thirsty. He asked, "Who's going to get me water from the bore of Beit Lechem?" Asher Bashar. Vayvaku shloshes hagiborim b'machne plishtim. Vayishabu mayim mibor Beit Lechem asher bashar. And they brought him water from the 3 wells of the plishtim. Now the Chachamim saw here that this was not thirst for water, but thirst for Torah. My kamaboile. What was the shaila here? Rav Nachman. Tomim be'esh kamaboile. They were dealing with the sugya. If you bury something in the ground, are you responsible to pay for its damage if fire goes over it? David HaMelech didn't know. Il Rav Yehuda is chayiv for tomum, ikra bono. Upashtule mehayde pashtule. And they brought an answer from the Chachamim in Beis Lechem. Ravuna Amar, what was the case? Gadishim shel sa'oyim shel Yisrael. There were haystacks of barley that belonged to Jews. Davu mitamrei plishtim behu. The plishtim were hiding in these haystacks. And the way to kill the plishtim was to light a fire. But if it become a boile, can I damage my friend's property to save my life? You can't damage someone's property. But you are a king. Melech poirates. And a melech can break down fences. You can't protest. He has the rights of eminent domain. Now, the Rabbanon had a different version of the question. Vitem Rabbar Mary Amru, Gadishim the Sa'orim Shel Yisrael Avu, the haystacks of barley belonged to Jews. Ugadishim Shel Adoshim Shel Plishtim, and there was stacks of lentil that belonged to the Plishtim, because it was harvest time. The Kamaboilu Ma'u, Litol Gadishim Shel Sa'orim the Yisrael, Lite Lifnei Behamto. Can we take the barley that belongs to Jews to give to his animals? Almanas L'Shaim, afterwards, we're going to pay him back from Gadishim Adoshim to Plishtim, that belong to the Plishtim. Shal Chulei, they gave an answer. Chovel Yoshev Rosh Gzeli Yishalim. Afal Pish Gzeli Mishalim Roshu. You can't steal from one to pay back another guy. Avalata Melech. But you, David Melech, are the king. Umelech Paritz Lasos Lederech. A Melech can make eminent domain a road anywhere. Bein Moachmina can't protest. So there were 2 versions of the question. So Bishlam Manda Omar, that the Shaila was Lachlufi, to exchange the lentil for the barley. Hainu Dichsiv Chad Kra. That's why one pasuk says, Vatihisham Chelkas Asedam Leadoshim. One field was full of lentils. Uksiv Chad Kra. Vatihi Chelkas Asedam Leasoyer. The other field had barley. So that explains the question, the second way we answered the question. Alman Domer Lemakli, my Ivulu Lahani Trey Kroy. If the Shaila was whether to burn the haystacks to kill the Plishtim there, why do I need these 2 psukim? Because there were haystacks of lentils that also belonged to Jews that they were hiding, that the Plishtim were hiding there. And both were correct, that it was barley and lentil. According to the version that said, the question was, can we burn the fields to kill the Plishtim? That Meikar Adina would be also to burn to save him, but then later on they said it was permitted. But if it was just to exchange the lentils for the barley, What kind of saving is it? There was no saving of a life. He gave them permission for mominus to exchange, even though it had nothing to do with saving. Bishmani Tarjan is Trey Croy. At least according to both Shitas, there's two psukim. Either because they exchanged the lentils for the barley, or they asked a different question. If the shaila was, is there monetary damage for things that are buried, then what do we need these psukim that is dealing with the field? Not the same story. So we'll answer this tomorrow.
Beautiful.
So no Surba tonight because the volume 15s have not arrived. I assume they'll arrive this week. We'll try to distribute